All right, I think we'll start now. So good afternoon, everyone. So this is our first Filipino front-end developers live series, and this event is more of a it's like a learning series, where we invite various front-end developers or any type of developers and them sharing their journey, their insights, their tips, if they'd like to give out tips or any shortcuts or any advices that like to give starters or experienced ones or let them know how they do things. So it's more on like a learning activity, learning engagement. But yeah, so we actually have a group. So it's called Filipino Frontend Developers. That's where we new fans. So he actually joined in. So if you haven't seen that group yet, make sure to visit it. It's I'm just gonna type it here. Filipino front end developers, and this is exclusively for developers. So the main agenda of the group is to share insights, learnings, and to learn from one another. I think one of the topics that we've talked about earlier this morning is what are the resources that you visit for you to refresh your front end skills and all that. And a lot of them gave a lot of open sources resources, so that's really good. So if you'd like to join that, make sure to find that group and click on join or follow or whatever it is. But anyway, yeah, let's start with it because the main purpose of this one is to interview our good friend Franz. And I think already spent like 10 minutes blabbering about myself. But anyway, so Franz, can you please let us know more about yourself and like how many years have you been doing front end development and for what type of company, what type of industry?
Hey guys, my name is Francois Pastrana, and um, I've been doing front end development for around 8 years now.
Hmm.
I've been working with startups, business owners, and entrepreneurs. So I've been building websites, mobile application, and e-commerce sites. That's basically what I do for a living.
Uh-huh.
And just recently, I started a blog, and I would like to use this opportunity to say thanks to those people who give response, feedback, and I genuinely glad to see those people who are, giving feedback to me, giving encouragement to write more. And I'm happy that I can give advice, give help to those developers who are just starting their career in web development. And I'm very very thankful with you guys. So yeah,
Don't
that's
forget
it.
to share the blog link or anything. Don't forget to share it. We're really keen in reviewing it.
Yeah.
And you did. I'm not sure if I missed it out. But what kind of developer are you? Are you more of a well-rounded full stack dev, or are you more focused on the front end, back end side? What type of developer are you?
Recently, I'm more focused on front end side. So basically, I've been converting PSD designs, InVision, and mockup designs to live website.
Hmm.
And I also do UX for those specific products like application and e-commerce. So
Okay, that's good. All
yeah.
right. Why pick front end development? Why not be a full-rounded one? Why not be a back end dev? But why front end dev? Why specialize in that aspect?
I think it's falls down to personal preference. Actually,
Hmm.
if you are more of, because me personally, I'm a more of visual kind of guy. I like seeing concept designs. I like seeing mock-ups. I like seeing user interface. So I think my strength is more of a front end. So I enjoy doing front end development basically,
Uh-huh.
and that's what I focused just recently. But before in my early days of my career, I used to be a full stack developer.
Uh-huh.
Um, but then I involved with working with a team, so that in that means we have a back end developer, we have designer, we have,
Uh-huh.
so they filling all those roles so that my role is only focus on front end. So that's basically why I focusing on front end right now.
Yeah. And did I hear you correctly, Franz? So you said something about you. It's more of a personal preference, and you wanting to see or see your work visually, right? So do you get like, I'm not sure if I'm interpreting this correctly, but I'm a frustrated developer and I suck at developing. But the reason why I stick with front end dev is because I like seeing the output of my work visually, and
Yes.
I get a sense of fulfillment in it. Are you the same?
Yes, that's basically the same because seeing the interface that you're developing is some kind of accomplishing personally because you see that how the people or how the users use your design or how, your developed website or app.
Yeah.
So visually, it's kind of accomplishing for me personally. So I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah, and a lot of developers has that in common. Because I've interviewed like a handful of people now, and and most of the reasons that they say is that it's either not too critical, not too analytical, but at the same, but on the other side, you get to see your work and you get to be proud of it, and you can show it to anyone.
yeah.
Like even though those who really can appreciate reading codes and all that. So yeah, it's really good thing. So if I'm not mistaken, France, we've been doing development for 8 years now. Am I right?
Yes, that's right.
One of the questions that we asked developers during interviews, just to see how good their experiences are, is them sharing like the most difficult projects that they've handled and why is it difficult for them. Could you share one of which that you've experienced before?
Yeah, that's actually interesting question because I'd say that the difficult project that I've been handled is the very first project that given to me in my very first job. So I would
Hmm.
like to tell you some short story.
Yeah.
So um, I'm a I have a passion for video games. I think you and I are the same.
Yep.
And my dream is to be a video game developer. So since I graduated last 2012, I noticed that the Philippines is not yet ready for AAA games. I can't find any video game companies that I can work with here in the Philippines back then, but now I think it's more growing. The Philippines is growing its video
Yep.
game industry, but back then, yeah, it's hard to work with a video game company. So with that said, I turned my skills from video game developer to web developer, and glad I did.
Uh-huh.
And um, from there, I self study. I attended internship. I I attended seminars, something like that, and so after a few months, I'm able to land a job, my very first job in a medical company.
Okay.
And from there, that's when I got my very first project, which is I believe I need to develop a full-fledged medical system for nurses to use. So technically,
Uh-huh.
that's more of a compliance system. And
Okay.
I didn't know about PHP. I didn't know about JavaScript. I can just
Uh-huh.
develop bare minimum web pages. So
Gosh.
yeah, that's a very challenging part for me that time. And so the job is there. I learned what I needed to learn, and to make the story short, I failed the project, and the project is passed to uh, more senior developer because basically the project is needed with the role of designers, develop. I mean, I'm the front end, I'm the back end, I'm the architecture, I'm the project manager back then, but my skill set is not fit with that specific project. So I think that is the I have a great learning experience with that first project of mine. So from there, I learned a lot. I really learned a lot because I learned my lesson the hard way. And from there, I reflect on things, and because of that, I'm able to level up. I try to improve what is lacking to me back then for that specific project. And yeah, I think that's the hardest project that I've handled.
That's
The
a really
very
good example, Franz. That's a really good example because that's also one of the things that we ask in interviews, not for us to because the usual candidates their mindset is to share something that's successful. But basically, for us, there's no right and wrong answer for that one. We're after someone who can acknowledge his strengths, his weaknesses, his mistakes, and what are you gonna do about it? What's next? I think that's a really good answer to that, Franz. If you were in an interview, we'd move on with the next steps. That is if you decide to work with us. But yeah. Anyway, I also noticed that since you've been in the development, you've been doing development for like 8 years now. I assume that you were also given like some kind of leadership responsibilities along the way. Am I
yeah,
right?
yes.
Uh huh.
Throughout those eight more or years, I became a project manager. I used to lead a team multiple times. So yeah, I think the most difficult part of being a project manager or a leader is you are dealing with different kinds of personalities and different kinds
Mm,
of skill sets, and I think that's the hard thing because for the team as a leader, I need to show each of those developers the end goal and what is the success looks like, and
mhm,
making them feel good about themselves, and make them love what they're doing, so that because I believe happy developers can output good results. So it's a teamwork basically. It's not about me who's dragging those developers, but it's about them doing the right thing, leveraging their skills, helping them when they stuck, and yeah, I think that's the accomplishment as a leader. That's the best feeling that I'm getting when I'm leading a team.
yeah. That's really good because that's a really good answer also, Franz. And more, it's you answered it also in a on a personal preference kind of way because being a leader means different things to different people, right? So for you, it's more inspiring others, directing others on how to do things right, how to do things perfect as possible.
Right.
And that's an interesting question. So if you guys would love to know more about our take, um, like my take personally on what makes a good leader, we also have that in our Facebook page. So again, it's a Filipino front end developer. So if you're really interested to know more about anything, feel free to join. Um, but yeah, that's a really good answer. For the next one, I think this is a good question that we always ask developers as well. So if you were to go back and talk to yourself, like let's say 8 years before you really started your career as a developer, what advice would you give yourself?
That's a great question actually. I have a lot of things that I want to say to my younger self, but I think I want to focus on because I'm constantly making mistakes until now that I'm senior developer. I'm still making mistakes, and I'm learning with that mistakes, and because of those mistakes, I should not repeat the same mistakes again because if I did, that means I didn't learn from those mistakes. Um, Basically, what I would say to my younger self is don't afraid to fail because failing is what makes us. Like I said, what I tell before, the biggest fail that I did as a developer is my very first project professionally. So I learned from it. I reflect on things, what went wrong, what I can do better, and because of that, I'm able to progress. I'm able to level up my skills. Right now, I'm not making the same mistakes again, and that's a very great learning experience for me. And I think the second one is improve communication skills because as a developer, usually you will work in a team, right? So the team needs to be, um, you need to be on the same page with all of your team members. because you need to progress on what should be the goal of the project. So communicating every progress that you have, either you're stuck or you're making a good progress, communicate it with your manager or with your senior manager or anything that around in the team. Um, yeah, that's the second one, and I think the third one
Uh-huh.
is I wish I'm learning business skills as early as possible before,
Good.
because if you learn business skills, if you know the business of the company that you've been working for, you know how to position yourself in the organization or in the company. So you know how to fill the gap, how to how to um, make a good output to the company to help the company lift up to their goals, helping them reach their goals, as well
Yeah.
as they helping you to grow as a developer, as a front end developer.
Good.
And um, yeah, that's the most important things that I would like to give.
Uh-huh. Do we have
And
any hiring managers here who's partnered with us? Would you like to hire this guy? Just let me know if you want to schedule an interview with him. I'll fix it up.
yeah,
It's really good,
also,
Brad. It's really good because you're talking from experience, and that's what we're after.
yeah,
Not saying, not telling us stuff that we want to hear, but you like sharing what's you
yeah,
and what are your ideas. This is your perspective of things. That's what's really important to us. Because that's what makes a good professional in my perspective. So that's really good.
yeah.
Um,
Can I add one thing?
sure thing.
So since I started my blog, most of young developers who reach out to me having the same questions, having the same patterns. Because
Uh-huh.
if you reach out by multiple developers, you're noticing a pattern. So I would like to say, I would like to give you advice that improve your problem solving skills and improve your critical thinking as a developer, because those shining frameworks, JavaScript, React, Vue, those are just tools that you use um, to accomplish the end goal of the product or the project. But then you can improve your problem solving skills, so that you can move forward with with anything that you need to do. And
Mm.
most of the times, those young developers are too attached to frameworks. And I, speaking with experience, I think um, basically problem solving skills is the one of the most crucial part of being a developer that you need to improve.
I
Um,
agree. I agree.
yeah,
Hmm.
those frameworks and all the basic programming languages is just a it's just a tools that you can learn. You can read documentation, but then as a developer, critical thinking and problem solving skills is the one that makes you a great developer.
Yeah. So listen, guys. No matter what level of developer you are, junior, mid, senior, listen to this because it's very important. Technical skills or soft skills is equally important as your technical skills.
Right.
That's
I
just the way it is.
I
That's just
totally
the way
agree.
it is. So moving on, since as you know, Filta is a big promoter of Shopify because we know and we believe that it's the next big thing in e-commerce. And as you guys know, we host Shopify events quarterly. Before physically in our offices, but now it's virtually because of the pandemic, obviously. So we have one upcoming this January. So make sure to visit our Facebook page, Filta, and you can see there we'll be posting soon the date, the final date of our Shopify event. But yeah, since we're a big endorser of which and know that you're using Shopify, France, would you recommend Shopify as the main CMS platform other than the other open source CMS available out there? Would you recommend Shopify?
Yes. So I started my Shopify development um, experience 2 years ago when a client asked me to customize his Shopify. I don't have any experience with Shopify back then, but he gave me time to learn Shopify development, so I did. after a few weeks, I'm able to develop in Shopify. I used liquid scripting in Shop because that's what scripting language used in Shopify.
Yep.
So from there, I'm able to work in a Shopify agency where we getting requests from clients that they need to customize their Shopify store or they need to build their Shopify store from scratch. And yeah, that's my experience. I highly recommend Shopify. Actually, personally, um, multiple relatives of me, because of the pandemic, they want to sell their products online, and instead of me doing their website, I recommend them to just sign up with Shopify and use it because it's very easy to use. Personally, um, without, I mean, you need to have technical knowledge, obviously, but it's not that hard to maintain your products inventory. You can do it yourself if you want to sell online. So I'm recommending Shopify for those people who want to sell their products online. And you actually don't need a developer unless you need to have a customized functionality in your website. That's that's when you will need me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's a
yeah,
basic drag and drop, but I recommend to get someone like Franz for full-blown customization to make it
yeah,
look cool.
yeah. That's I highly recommend Shopify personally.
Okay, so what are the tips or advices that you give to our developers here who's listening in on how to learn how to use Shopify?
I believe in the past few days I posted that why should developers start learning Shopify, and so from there I get responses. They are getting hard time to learn Shopify because they can find any online video tutorials on how to develop. I would say practice to read the documentation of Shopify itself because everything that you need is in there. Um, just be resourceful, guys. There is a cheat sheet, and there is a good documentation that's around the internet aside from video tutorials. I know that most of you are learning by watching, but I'd say also practice learning by reading documentation. That's a very important part because aside from Shopify, you might ended up working with an API, and an API have a documentation, so you need to read it carefully. You need to read it thoroughly, and yeah, if you want, I can. If I have time, I want also to make a video tutorials on Shopify from from zero to hero, something like that, from easy to advanced. Yeah, I would genuinely would like to help those developers who are starting learning Shopify, and um, yeah, that's I think that's it.
That's really that's really good, Franz. It's really good. I'll take that advice. Maybe I can create a Shopify website of my own because I can only do drag and drop and I suck at it. Anyway, okay, so we have a couple of questions here for you, Franz. I hope you don't mind me picking. So there's one good question from Anthony J. Ansett. He actually said that he wanted to know what's the reaction of your employer in your first employer that asked you to do the medical system project that you shared earlier. What was the reaction when they learned that you don't have any experience in backend development?
Um, of course, they disappointed, but then in that case, we only have two developers, me and my senior. And back then, I tried to be honest with them that I don't have any extensive experience with back end, and I'm more of a front end kind of guy. So yeah, they're disappointed, but they give me another chance because I'm a good employee to them, and from there I just learned from my mistakes, and I didn't um, repeat the same mistakes again. I learned how to ask the right questions, and I learned how to ask help when I needed to, because most of the time I see the struggle of developers that they are shy or they don't want to look stupid because they are stuck with a certain problem. Guys, at the end of the day, clients only care about the results. So if you are stuck with something, ask the right questions and ask for help. Get some help. So that's
Yeah,
I hope I answer your question.
yeah,
Um,
that's really good. So basically, I think to add one important thing to add there, I hope you don't mind, Francis, to find an employer that also cares about your professional growth.
right.
Because if that employer didn't really care about France, he wouldn't end up like working with that senior developer and finishing the project and all that stuff. But yeah, okay. Another question. I will extend like for a few minutes. But last question for you, friends. What's the advantage of using Shopify versus using WooCommerce to customize appearances in Liquid template? Um, and yeah, did I read that correctly? To customize appearance of Liquid template, and are you still able to modify it? And if you need to add like custom functionalities, what language would you be using? I think this is still Liquid, right?
Yeah. If I understand the question correctly, what's the difference or advantage or disadvantage of Shopify and WooCommerce? Is that right?
I think we can start off with that one. What's the advantage of using Shopify versus WooCommerce first?
Right. So answering that question, Jay, is that right? Jay.
Yeah, I
So
think it's Jay. Yeah.
speaking from experience, WooCommerce is very flexible because it's made in PHP. Um, but then in Shopify, you just do all the front end stuff. You don't need to worry about the back end side because Shopify already handle it from the transaction, from anything that managing your products. Um, Basically, you just customize the front end side of the store. And if theirs is a customized edition for that specific store, you can use plugins. It's basically the same, but in Shopify, you just work on the more like 70% of the time you work on the front end stuff. So that's the advantage of Shopify versus WooCommerce.
Thanks for answering that, Franz. We're
Mm.
a bit tight in time, so we're gonna move on with the next question. This is from Mary Grace, and this is the last question. Can you can you recommend the best documentation and website where they can learn both WordPress and Shopify, and recommend any like video channel and YouTube?
Personally, I just learned by reading Shopify documentations in Shopify site, shopify.com, I believe. And to learn WordPress, there is also a documentation in WordPress.com. Just guys, just be resourceful. And for the YouTube channel, I I can't I can't give any specific channel because there's a ton, but they give different approach to on how you should learn Shopify. Just look on the video tutorials that fit your learning curve, and um, that's it.
That's good. Don't be specific about recommendations. See what fits them. That's a
Yes.
good and safe answer, Franz. Okay. Um, Okay, I think that's about it for us. We're gonna wrap this up. So thank you so much for your time, Franz. I really do appreciate you taking the time and attending or joining our Facebook Live event for today. Um, is there anything that you'd like to add or promote before we end our Facebook Live?
Yeah. I mean, if you want to be, I'd say if you want to be a great developer, you might want to read my blogs. I give advices, I give tips on how you can, how you can level up your game in web development and how to be more uh, become a great developer. So go to my website. It's franspolpastrana.co without M because I just changed domain name. So it's franspolpastrana.co. And yeah, I would like to thank Filta and you, John and Denny, to for inviting me here, and it's a very great experience sharing my knowledge with you guys. And yeah, more power to you guys. Really
The
appreciate it.
pleasure is ours. The pleasure is ours, Franz. But yeah, thanks again, Franz. We'll see you around. Thank you for everyone who watched. And just a quick note, I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but we're having like a Filta fast talk this next week Friday. It's more of a 15 minutes getting to know each other. And if we feel that we have a strong possible position for you, we'll let you know. But if not, we'll give you recommendations how to better yourself on how to do interviews. Not cheat it in a way, but give you advices on how to do it better and at the same time maintain honesty, you know.
Can I
But
add one quick advice with the interview thing? Because
shoot,
recently I interview some of front end developers, and uh, be prepared in the interview. Don't go with the interview when you're driving, when you're walking outside. Just give yourself preparation in the interview, and that's it. Be
correct.
prepared.
Yeah, learn about the business, what they do, what you're going to be doing on a daily basis.
Right.
If that details are not available, make sure to ask it first because we also gauge interest level because here in Filter we don't just hire those who are technically qualified. We hire people who's similar to France who has like motivation in what they do, who's really passionate about development and can is and crystal clear be able to say why they're passionate about it, what they enjoy about it, and how they see themselves moving forward as an IT professional. But yeah, so again, that's gonna be live within the day in our Filta Facebook page. So it's gonna be for next week, but you can book yourself in for interviews. And this is available not only for devs but also for digital marketing roles. And we're only open for 15 slots, 15 for me for the developers, and 15 for my colleague Alex. I assume that you guys saw her in our TikTok videos, but yeah, she'd be the one interviewing for the digital marketing roles. And but yeah, that's about it. Feel free to message us in our Facebook page and visit our careers page, filterglobal.com/careers for potential openings. And again, please participate in our referral program. This is the only way that we can help you out during this pandemic is to you helping us with hiring people and us helping you with by giving you extra money for this holiday season and to cope up with this pandemic. But yeah, uh, I think that's about it. Thank you so much for your time, guys. I really do appreciate it. Thank you, friends.
Thank you
Thanks.
guys.
Okay, bye.
Bye.